Hello, shalom from my end of the world. Good afternoon to some of you. Good evening to the star in my galaxy. So today, Agnes could not be with us. She had a little family emergency, but she'll be back next week. So I thought I would take the opportunity to talk a little bit about chronic pain. So first of all, this is TMS Roundtable Global, and we are global. It is 8 o'clock in Israel. It's 6 o'clock in England. It's 1 o'clock in the USA East Coast, 11 a.m. in the West Coast. I think it's 5 a.m. in Australia. So I want to dedicate this little show to Rose, who's on her own healing journey. We miss her very much, and she'll be back. So I'm going to take a few minutes to chat about some things I've been learning. And feel free to chime in if you want to come and speak a little bit with me and ask some questions. I'm here for a little bit. But our guest had a last minute emergency. She'll be back next week with her healing journey. Quite an interesting one. So I wanted to share a few things with you. So first of all, I think some of you know I've been studying pain reprocessing therapy, and it's really has shifted the way that I help people and the way that I see chronic pain. It's very much helped me in healing and also understanding the brain, and really being able to help people and continue my education on this show and in other ways. So first of all, I wanted to bring up, I'm going to just show this to you. I'll bring myself down. And I'll show this to you. Okay, so this slide is talking about pain being an emotion. Now, I didn't learn that in chiropractic school. I recently learned that when I started to study the brain. And again, we think the brain is this machine that's controlling us, but it is an organ. And it really is controlled by our unconscious mind. And I'm not going to get into that tonight, but indirectly, we control our unconscious mind. We control the thoughts, which turn into behaviors, which turn into beliefs, which turn into experiences. And as Joe Dispenza says, this becomes your story. We can change that starting with the thoughts. Most important is the research is telling us that pain is an emotion. It's processed in the same place in the amygdala as fear, sadness, guilt, grief, anger. These are core emotions. These are core emotions that can trigger the brain to stay in fight or flight. So let's talk about fear. Okay, let's talk about fear. I'm going to bring this slide down in a second, and I'm going to bring another slide up. This is from a PowerPoint that I teach. So I don't know if all of you know about the nail in the boot. It's such a great story. I'll give you the short version. There's a man, it's actually a study. I'm happy to send anybody who's interested the research, the study, the article that was written about this man. He was a construction worker, and he steps on a nail, and it's literally through his boot. He's beside himself, freaking out in pain. They can't calm him down on the job. They take out the emergency kit. They give him something. They can't calm him down. They call the ambulance. They put him in the ambulance. They give him a shot. Nothing helps. Take him in to the emergency room. They cut off the boot, and the nail is between his toes. Okay? And what they discover is the fear of the pain. The anticipation caused his brain to feel actual pain. And I'm sure we wouldn't question that guy. He felt pain. That's how the brain works. In the other picture was another article. Happy to send it to you. I got this from an article called The Tale of Two Nails. This was another construction worker. He's shooting nails through planks, and something kind of touches his face, a little bit like that. Nothing happens. 2 weeks later, he goes to the dentist with a toothache, and they find the nail pierced, almost piercing his brain. He feels no pain. Okay, this is how he expresses pain. So the idea is that we all express pain, we all feel pain, we all process pain differently. That's because of who we are individually, but the pain is always processed in the brain. Now, in the boot, he wasn't injured. There was no injury. In the face, there was an injury, but he didn't feel any pain. So fascinating to talk about this. Now, I'm going to bring up the word fear again because I just recently watched a movie and it's not out. You can't watch it yet. I'm trying to figure out. It's called Facing Fear, and I'm trying to figure out how to get everyone to watch it. Right now, it's sort of being shown in festivals and certain screenings. I'm going to try to have a screening online. It's an outstanding movie about fear, and we all know that fear is much worse than the pain. The fear of the pain is much worse than the pain. We've learned that, we've understood that, we've experienced it ourselves. So I want to read you something because I personally can't say it better than Alan Gordon right now. And I learn a lot from studying pain reprocessing therapy and reading his book. And but he wrote something recently, and it's on his Facebook page about fear. Fear helps us identify danger. So when we're afraid, our brains magnify our senses in order to protect us. Noises seem louder when we feel fear, and we're even more sensitive. Our smell, our touch, everything is more magnified. Fear doesn't just magnify our senses, fear also magnifies danger signals like pain. So where does all this fear come from? Well, for some of us, it comes from the stress of life. Like if you're working 60 hours a week, or if you have COVID, or if you're struggling to pay the rent, or if you're breaking up a fight with your children, or your children are starting to drive on a busy highway. There'd be many things that trigger our fear. Sometimes there's internal things we don't realize are triggering us. Sometimes we have a tendency to worry all the time, or engage in self-criticism or self-judgment, or put too much pressure on ourselves. This can release stress hormones and trigger our fear response. This is another whole topic about when we worry or criticize or judge, we literally create inflammation. The body feels the sensation, it senses the anxiety, and literally produces types of chemicals, and a lot of them are inflammatory chemicals. I studied this with Dr. David Hanscom, and we learn about that we create inflammation because the body thinks there's a threat, and all it is us worrying about our children. So these thoughts can release stress hormones and trigger our fear response. But regardless of how the pain started, once the pain appears, most people have a tendency to respond in the same way, with fear of the pain itself. And fear of the pain itself is the very thing that keeps neuroplastic pain alive. Okay? Think about that. Here's another image I want to show you. I'll come down and then you can see. see it a little bigger. So I'm happy to send you these slides, but it was really about what happens when we're feeling threatened. And one show I had with Dr. David Hanscom, he says, Dr. Tova, I don't want to call it mind-body therapy. I want to call it safety threat therapy. And I thought that was brilliant. And I use that a lot because really what's happening is our brain is perceiving threat, and we need to learn to bring it safety. And we can learn that because we can learn anything at any age. I get up, I brush my teeth, I have a routine, I go to the gym, I drive a car without even thinking about it. This is really just pathways, habits. And I'm convinced anyone at any age, any intelligence can learn a new habit, especially if it's something that serves them, something that's going to bring safety and calm to their brain. So if I say it's hard to learn a new habit, it's going to be hard to learn a new habit because neurons that fire together wire together. And if I keep saying, it will keep acting. So another concept about our story and what we say to ourselves and our language. So I want to do a little pain reprocessing therapy with you. Another couple of minutes. So again, do you all know the power of the breath? Been doing yoga for 40 years, did not really understand. Went to chiropractic school, 8 years of study. Didn't really get the importance of the breath, the anchor of the breath, did not understand what's really happening. So when I inhale and I exhale, I'm creating and producing all these happy chemicals. I'm creating my own cannabis. I'm creating my own opioid. I'm creating my own oxytocin. They say a 2-minute hug creates enough oxytocin to change pain. So a hug for 2 minutes may be one of the healing insights. So I'm creating inflammatory medicine. I'm creating muscle relaxers. I'm creating heroin, I read. The cannabis was something new to me, the cannabinoids. That in my exhale, I'm actually a pharmacy inside, a complete pharmacy just by my breath. We don't realize the power we have within. So stay with me for a few minutes. Take a few deep breaths. And from what I'm learning, it's not just a breath, it's a deep diaphragmic breath, which taps into your vagus nerve, which is another whole way of understanding how we can heal ourselves. You know, it's about the doctor within and the therapist within. I'm just a messenger. You guys have what it takes to heal. Yes, Susie, also brings us back to nature. 100%. It also helps us to be present. It puts us in the moment. The breath grounds us. It's a powerful, powerful tool. Taking a couple of deep breaths in and out. Now I want you to think about, now I want you to expose, somatic tracking and pain reprocessing therapy came from exposure therapy. Alan Gordon didn't make it up. He took it from something called exposure therapy, that we expose ourselves to the fear. Like, what do we do when we want to fear of flying? We jump off a chair. We fear swimming, we put one foot in the shallow end. Okay, fear of pain, we need to have coffee we need to sit with the pain, we need to sit with our feelings. So let's just all take a minute and think about the place in your body that's uncomfortable. I like to call it a sensation. What I learned is that we're all having normal sensations. We have a high alarm, a high alert, a high sensitivity, so it feels like it's real pain, but it's a normal sensation that your body has learned. So really, it's if you can call it a sensation, and before you add the fear, you see, it will even hurt less. It's the fear that grabs you. So it's a sensation. And if you add the fear, it'll turn into pain. Let's pull it back to a sensation. Notice your sensation in your neck and your back and your leg. Notice it. Think about it. Describe it to yourself. Describe it to me. What's it feeling like? Sharp, dull, knife, annoying, frustrating. It's uncomfortable. It's a sensation, and your body has learned it. And it's become a conditioned response. Happens pretty much most of the time, most of the times in the day, but this too can change. So now, staying with your breath, inhaling and exhaling, notice the sensation. Be with it. Notice now, observe around you. Is there any threat? Is there a fire? Is there a lion coming? Is there a war? Is it a flu? Notice that it's not dangerous. What's happening, it's your thoughts that there's some danger. Right now, there's no threat to you that I can see. And our job is to notice and recognize that our brain perceives a threat. So I'd like to teach you to be your own fireman, to be your own doctor, your own pain reprocessing therapist, by bringing safety, words of safety. Speak it to yourself. Say it out loud. Wow. I really have a lot of compassion for myself. I've really been going through a lot. And I know I'm living in a little bit in fight and flight. My sympathetic nervous system is number 10, number 20. It's high. You know, you can bring it down. You can bring it down. You can shift from your sympathetic nervous system to your parasympathetic nervous system. Speak words of calm. Everything will be okay. Today's another day where I get an opportunity. You know, pain is an opportunity. Your body is not punishing you. Your body's protecting you because it's getting signals that something is wrong. So we got to switch that. The brain's making a mistake. One of my patients said the brain was tricking her. So it's kind of tricking you, but it's not hurting you. Your body's not punishing you. And, you know, it's hard to heal a body you hate. So I'm asking you to come close to your body. Understand it. Have a relationship with it. Sit with your feelings. Observe and witness and recognize. And just be curious. This pain is not dangerous. Cannot hurt you. It's uncomfortable, and I know you want to get rid of it, but you have to go through it. I think Alan Gordon's book should have been The Way Through. We're all going through it. We're all going through our journey on our own level. So take another couple of deep breaths and let the air out. Deep diaphragmatic breaths. Bring in that cannabis, bring in the opioid, bring in that natural chemical. Natural healing. Come into your parasympathetic nervous system with calm. Hanscom also talks about humming and singing, calming your nervous system. These are lowering your anxiety stressors. He has a great little YouTube I passed out the other day on my Facebook page and all over. Lowering your anxiety stressors. Doc Hanscom had 19 symptoms. He couldn't cross the bridge without. He couldn't cross the bridge. He just couldn't cross the bridge. He had so much anxiety. It took him lots of time and lots of study. And he's now, you know, no one's symptom free, but he's doing the work. He's walking the talk, and all of you can. I know you can. I'm 100% convinced you can all heal. It's just about the how and the when and the why. But here we go. It's in the brain. And fear is a powerful, powerful tool. This movie called Facing Fear was this man who found out he had Parkinson's, and he began to face his mortality. And it's a phenomenal movie with a number of like Joe Dispenza kind of people talking, Bruce Lipton and other doctors talking about fear. You know, fear is energy. Fear is not real. Yes, we have been threatened before. Yes, we have faced saber-toothed tigers. Yes, we have lived with enormous traumas. I'm not one to judge anyone's trauma. But that's our story. That's our experience. And it's our experience that we need to heal. Our little children are now adults. And we need to, I wanted to say something about the trauma because in some of Alan Gordon's work, he talks about how, yes, unprocessed grief, unprocessed sorrow will block the brain. But we're doing that work. We're working on our little children. We're connecting to our little child. We understand intellectually the shit we've come through. And you know what? You are all remarkable people. You have overcome adversity. Do you realize that? That's all behind you. You've lived in survival, and now you're still in survival mode, and that's part of the brain game. So we can come out of survival mode, be in stable mode, understand our journey, and heal ourselves. So I could go on and on. I think I've been complete in somehow coming out of that little pain reprocessing therapy. There's no threat, there's no danger, bringing calm, and seeing every time you notice the pain as an opportunity. Oh, there's an opportunity for me to practice building that new pathway. You know, the phantom leg guy, he's got a pathway. I have a leg, I have pain. Now my leg is gone. The pain is here. He has to relearn. He doesn't get rid of the pathway that the pain is in his leg. He builds a stronger pathway. And that's what we're asking you to do, to build a stronger road that overpowers. Like this other pathway just gets deleted. And we start to go to our stronger pathway, which is our new neurocircuit is, my pain can't hurt me. My body's just protecting me. It's not punishing me. I'm strong and sensitive. I can turn the dial down. I'm having a pretty strong reaction to my sensations, but I can see that there's no threat. So I can slowly turn my dial down from 10 to 9 to 8. I can become less sensitive. That's some of the work of Dr. Howard Schubiner. You know, I took a course with him, and there was a woman who had her jaw broken from a trauma, and she couldn't even have cold air on her face without being excruciating pain. So he sat with the woman, and he spoke to her. He did some Pain Reprocessing Therapy, did some of his other emotional work with her, and he had her put an ice pack on the jaw to see that it wasn't going to hurt her. There was no danger. It was just cold. She had convinced herself that anything cold was going to hurt her. So he had her face the cold and see that the cold was just cold. You know, I was scared of the dark growing up, but the dark is just black. It's not really scary. It's just a different experience of light. So when I understood that, I realized that if we can expose ourselves to our fear and see that it can't hurt us, that we created it, that we're way stronger than our fear, we can slowly, slowly be our own doctor and our own therapist. So I'm very happy to take any questions from you that are listening. Again, our guest tonight had a little injury and she had to go get an x-ray, but she seemed very happy and said, I'll be back next week. Pretty brave, courageous woman. And so I thought I would take this opportunity and come on and do a little bit of one-on-one here. on my broadcast. So I'm happy to see some of you in the audience. If anybody has any questions about fear or pain, you know I always have an answer. But I'm available on my Facebook page. If you have my WhatsApp number. And I've seen too much in my 66 years of life and experienced so much in the last 3 years with Rose, and then some of my broadcasts here in Israel with other people that I've co-hosted with, and continue to meet people that are healing. And I always say they're not Dalai Lamas on the mountain. They're like you and I. They just found their ability. They found the right way for them. They found their way out. They found the method. So it's not about journaling or breathing. It's you can do all of them or none of them. But I'm convinced after my last couple of years of study that we need to go to the brain. We need to understand the brain and that it's not hurting us. It's not punishing us. So, yes, Patty, I'm happy to see you. And I think I explained it carefully, and I'm always willing to explain it again and back it up with some research, which, Dr. Sarno was like, who needs the research? People are getting better. I remember Michael Galinsky told me that. And then I thought, yeah, I don't need the research. Yeah, I don't need it because, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a doctor. I'm just a chiropractor. I'm just I don't need the research. I just want to get people better, And then I started to study a little bit more. And then I saw the movie Pain Brain. And then I took the Pain Reprocessing Therapy certification. And the fact is, we are an art and a science. We're a human body. There's no way you can study this human body. There's absolutely no way. But the neuroplasticity of the brain is mind-blowing. It's malleable. Your brain can change. It's absolutely an organ. It's a piece of flesh, your brain. We are in control. You are the pilot. You are the navigator, 100%. And as I say to people, it's not about a cure. We're in recovery. We're all in recovery from this disease that Michael Galinsky calls life. We're in this condition called life. And we're on a journey. And some of the people find the most relief when they find meaning in their pain, meaning and purpose. Like Viktor Frankl's work, he found meaning and purpose in being in the camps and getting the hell out of there, becoming a therapist and creating something called logotherapy. And then there was a woman on our show who wrote a book, In Search of Healing, and it's about finding purpose, that you're not a victim. There's a reason. And if we keep learning something from our pain or our journey, we will be empowered by it. So I think I've said enough. So I'm happy to see some people in the studio, on the Facebook page. I'll download this and upload it to the YouTube. And I'm always happy to speak to anyone through Facebook or on my WhatsApp. Anybody would like a complimentary Zoom, I'm always happy to share. Blessings out to you. Blessings to Rose in Melbourne, Australia. And you're all in my prayers. Thanks for joining me tonight. We'll be back next week and every Monday for a long, long time, if I can help it. Erev Tov in Hebrew, and good night, good afternoon. All the best to everybody out there.